I'm Nick Coury. I'm an ultra runner. I'm one of the owners of Aravaipa. I was one of the founders, along with my brother Jamil. Was a race director for 5 years and worked on kind of everything in between. And now I help out with Aravaipa where I can and still run as much as I can, and otherwise just kind of poke around.
We're talking with Nick today because he was with Jamil when he did his point-to-point run down Central Avenue, starting at North Mountain and going all the way down to South Mountain. So from that run spawned the idea for Jamil to do our Run One event. So we're going to talk to Nick a little bit about his experience with that and hopefully motivate you guys to do the same. So whose idea was this? How did you come up with it?
Yeah, so it was Jamil's idea, and I can't remember exactly how it started, but it kind of pulls together a bunch of things that we've talked about throughout the years. Like, I know at one point we had a running joke. So there was a runner that calls himself the McDowell Mountain Man, and at some point I made a joke that I was going to become the McDowell Road Man. And, McDowell Mountain Man runs all over the McDowell Mountains. And so McDowell Road Man, I was just going to run McDowell Road and run back and forth on just McDowell Road all day. So I think that was kind of one of the early things that maybe got the wheels turning.
That sounds terrible.
Oh, yeah, awful. Like, I can't imagine. But Jamil at some point came up with kind of the cohesive idea that, like, it would be fun to do this kind of point-to-point run. Like, point-to-point runs, I think, have a compelling thing to us. Like, you're traveling, like, you start one place, like, you think like rim to rim at the Grand Canyon, or a lot of races that are point-to-point, Black Canyon, and just the amount of distance you cover. Like, as an ultra runner, it's fun to cover distance, but it's even more fun when, like, you can physically see, like, I was all the way over there, or, like, I can't even see how far I was. I can only see, like, the next pass over.
Isn't that always incredible to look back? It blows my mind.
Yeah. And so, like, combining that with, like, well, what's something maybe different or unique, like, lots of people run, I guess normal trails, but it's always fun to try to come up with something a little quirky. I think that's one of the things that we all love about ultra running is we get to be quirky. We get to do quirky things. Like, you get to experiment. You don't have to do something. You can do something no human being has ever done before. That itself is a challenge, but it's doable. And so, yeah, he came up with this idea that, like, in Phoenix, Central Avenue, like any city, is the center of the city, but it connects North Mountain with South Mountain. And so the idea was run from the top of North Mountain to all the way down Central Avenue to the top of South Mountain in one continuous run on foot. And so the idea was born, and we started talking about it. And yeah, so I think that's kind of how it started out.
Very good. And what time did you guys start, and how long did it take you?
So I was trying to fit it in among my, I don't remember why we couldn't find other time, but we had to squeeze it in the middle of a week, like a weekday. And, I had my full work day in. For whatever reason, I didn't want to take time off for this, or I might have, but I'm like, it was because it was hot also, is we knew we were going to have to start early. And so we kept pushing it earlier and earlier. And then I think the temperature kept rising. And so we ended up starting, and now it was like midnight or 2 a.m. or something like that. But I'm, like, getting an Uber, and I'm like the driver at first, like, I'm assuming he's just thinking, like, this guy's coming home from something, but, like, I have, like, a running pack. I'm not drunk or anything. So I have no idea what he thought about me. And he just drops me off in the middle of some neighborhood. So
he probably thought you were up to no good.
Yeah, totally. Like, so sketchy. So we start out at, basically the middle of the night. And so we hike up North Mountain, tag the top of the peak, run back down, and then we're just cruising down Central Avenue, at 2 a.m. And
so were things still open? Were you still able to stop in and have gas stations as your aid station?
We actually didn't really stop. No, we did. We stopped it. So early on, we kind of had enough stuff. We carried a ton of water. And yeah, as we're running through, most closed, anything. And I want to say it was like 2/3 of the way down Central. We stopped at the Circle K, And like we were hitting that point in the run. I think it was, I don't know, 15 miles in or something like that. And you're just tired and you're like, oh, all I want is like a cold Gatorade or a slushie. And then we need to find something. And then the Circle K like lights up in the distance. And we're going. So we stopped and we got probably way too much liquid. And you start out and you're sloshing around, but it tasted so good. It was like worth every bit of it.
I'm always a sucker for those slushies, and then I regret it when I try and get moving again.
Yeah. Like it's one thing at the end of a run, it's another thing in the middle of it.
I know. So what time did you get down to the base of South Mountain then?
It must have been like 4 something, because it was hitting sunrise kind of as we were climbing up to the top. The timing actually turned out perfect. Like we hadn't planned it that way. But I don't think I would do it like another way now. Like hitting the top of South Mountain, if you're familiar, like you go up, we went up Holbert, and then you hop onto the Radio Tower Road to get the last bit all the way up to the very top. And the sun was rising up there, and we got this perfect view, and we kind of caught our breath. And it was just like the perfect finish to the whole run.
How many miles was it altogether from end to end?
It was 25.
Okay. So that's pretty reasonable, but you also got some good vert going up north and south.
Yeah.
Very cool. How was it to see kind of the change as you were moving down Central Avenue, just going through the different districts and neighborhoods and, going through downtown versus going through the neighborhoods? What was that experience like?
Yeah, I think that was actually one of the things I enjoyed the most is like, I guess I've heard a lot of runners talk about like when you travel somewhere new, running is an interesting way to see an area. Mm. And the really interesting thing about this route is it let you see a lot of different areas where like you might normally kind of coordinate a run and paths in an area that's kind of similar and it's a lot of like the same. But this, because it just cuts across everything, like it keeps changing. Like you go through some really nice areas with these huge, like almost mansion-like houses that are super groomed and nice. And then you go through like some really rundown areas. And then you go through a lot of industrial areas and there's like, trains and all kinds of stuff. And so it like really just keeps changing every couple miles to something totally different and something unique. You go right through downtown, you just see tons of stuff.
And that's really nice, especially as you start to get tired. It just keeps some variety in your run and it keeps you mentally stimulated, I think, to have so much change in scenery when the run on the road is, kind of unchanging. So very neat. And that would be so cool to do in the middle of the night as well, when it's really empty and there's hardly anybody out on the streets or traffic on the road.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think I want to say we had a full moon out there too, which is always like, that's the best way to night run. That's like my favorite place to go when it's a full moon, is just somewhere out at night running.
Oh, I wonder if there's a full moon that falls during our challenge dates.
Yeah, if there is,
look into that.
That opens some possibilities for sure.
Yeah, very cool. So I think one thing that we're encouraging participants to do with this event, in terms of the community aspect and sharing about the area where you're in. I don't know if you've seen Ricky Gates' website, but when he's doing the Every Single Street project on his website for the city of San Francisco, he has maybe 20 different albums that are different things that he's taken photos of along the way. And so there'll be one that's like cats, and it's just about 40 pictures of all these different cats that he sees on the roads. I was talking to Chris Warden the other day, and he was talking about houses that look like faces. So I really love that idea of finding a theme and then looking for that as you go, because I think that when you have that awareness and you're actually searching for something, that you see so much more than when you just kind of turn your brain off and run. So I think that's something that we're really hoping that participants can get behind with this event.
Yeah. Like I think ours would have been gas stations, because all we could think about were the slushies.
It could have been maybe photos of the different flavors of slushies. You go into a QT, there's a lot of variety. That's 20 photos right there.
Yeah.
So what would you say was your favorite part of this challenge that you did? And why would you encourage participants to do the Run One event?
Like, I think my favorite part was like doing it with Jamil, doing it with my brother. Like,
Mm.
that was at a time when like we hadn't really seen each other much and you just didn't have time to connect. And so it kind of forced us to, tackle this big adventure together. And like early on, like, Jamil, like he's got his video camera, he's handing me GoPros, he's like having me film all this stuff. And
Yes.
start out with high aspirations and lots of footage, and then like halfway through we start getting tired and we start walking, and then it's like, I don't want to film any of this, and then you just kind of completely change and forget what you're doing, but like we're going through it together. And like by the end, like, yeah, I think we almost, like, we got a couple token clips of where we needed to get for the rest of the thing, but like we were mostly just out there like chit chatting, enjoying it together, like talking about all the ups and downs, kind of everything in between. Like it really, like, as much as we've done tons of runs together, like it surprises me how much you get out there, you get running together, you get into a place that's beautiful or interesting or just even a challenge, and like it brings something else out that it's like hard to explain and it's hard to get any other way.
Hmm. Well, you had mentioned earlier that how much more memorable it is when you do something as a point to point, because you can go out your door and do circles around your house for a mile and hit 20 miles. But when you have a goal, it just, it really makes it stand out in your memory so much more. And doing it with somebody that you can share it with is even better. So very
Yep.
good. Well, thank you so much for sharing your experience with us. I hope that we see all of you this September 14th through 20th is going to be our Run One Challenge, and you can find more information about it on our website. Thanks so much, Nick.
Awesome. Thanks, Julie.
All right, bye-bye.